just got to make sure at the end before you leave that you like that you stop recording and you upload it because you're not recording it back.
Yes, I would just start. Perfect.
You can upload it to Slack or you can upload it to
I put it back on the other slide, but I don't see anybody else scanning the essay.
I would put it in Slack in the Cad Training channel.
We'll probably do a last one.
The Fusion link for those who are still downloading.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking around, it looks like most people have done.
Oh, and that's a survey, right?
Yeah,
Attendance survey.
it's for us.
Yeah.
It's who we got for.
Can you change it back to the other one? We still got people scanning.
I bet you could like split it.
I probably could. I could probably.
I can.
Might be easier. But I mean, it's whatever. SEO links are
We'll
done.
wait a couple minutes.
I hope the essay links too. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, but honestly,
Actually, well, I'm wondering if I can take it on my phone, and then if anyone comes in, they can just scan up.
That's a good
the
idea.
SEO link, just put it up again at the end. It's whatever.
Oh,
Just leave the SEO link for the end, and anyone else can sign it at the end. Just leave it up.
This is a link to a survey for us. It's sort of like the attendance link, but it is different. If you could also fill that out while we're waiting for a few more minutes.
And real quick, can we get a raise of hands if you haven't gotten the Fusion download process started? Can you just let us know so we know who we need to go and help? Is everybody good? All right, perfect.
You're probably gonna have to unplug something if you want to plug in your laptop.
Why can't I plug
Oh no, yeah, that's a little scary.
I'm afraid of just pulling this in. I don't do it. He's liable.
Yeah. The worst case if I do it, it's my fault.
Exactly.
Don't unplug this one because this one plugs into all of this. That's.
I think. Okay, I don't want to unplug one.
Roll it down so everybody else can it's your minus the afternoon, and then it's your email.
Well, you know, actually, then it's so. It did. I don't know what that was. Oh, no. It's not an issue. Don't worry about it. I have a better.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. I think that's the end of the report. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever.
Nope. Most people have it downloaded. Putting on here, about 80% of them have it downloaded.
Better than day one for us.
Yeah.
0.
Well, because we throttled the internet connection to 0.
It was hilarious.
That was bad.
I enjoyed it.
It was funny. It was also pretty cool.
Also, I took this chair out of commission because if you sit in it, it just falls. Although my backpack, I guess, isn't heavy enough to do it. I like sat down and it sat right here.
So you're saying you can... Yeah.
What do you think? 640, 645?
Yeah, so also this is going to be a bit of a shorter meeting in general.
Okay.
Because we left an extra time for this kind of
Okay.
stuff.
Sorry, keep 640 short people going with download. Alright, if you guys can bear with us, we're going to start in a little bit. This meeting's going to start a little slow because the biggest issue is downloading Fusion on all of these many computers. We're probably going to sort of start in the next upcoming minutes. So if you already have it downloaded, go ahead, just keep waiting. If you're still in the process, if you can raise your hand, we have a lot of people here who can come out and help you personally. So thank you for your patience.
No one else. I was the only one that saw it. And I was
I'm
like,
kidding.
you were standing in my way. If you weren't, I would have physically walked.
I'm kidding. You're doing great, guys. Once you see that everyone has like started doing it, start talking about like what CAD training is. Or if just a couple people are doing things.
Yes, I guess.
Yeah, and then spend some time on the intro, but not too much time.
Yeah.
I would give it another minute or two.
Just don't want to keep it awkwardly silent.
Yeah, no, you're correct. That is a good.
Oh, I thought we were just going to keep it awkwardly silent for an hour.
So,
So we're going to give you a quick overview of what to expect for the semester so you can see if this is really art for you and what to look forward. And then we're actually going to do a quick sample CAD design to really kind of get your feet wet on what Fusion 360 entails and just the simple tools. So by the end of the meeting, you'll have something on your computer to take home. So like I said, bear with us. We know it's going to be a little slow, but we knew that this difficulty was going to come. You know, we can't pre-install Fusion on all these computers because you're account-based. But
I just feel like I feel like I was talking too loud.
You can't be too loud.
All right.
That's really smooth.
Gotcha. Most people are good, then you can go on to the next slide because most people are just sitting in front. Just start.
Should we start?
Yeah.
Let's get Patrick.
Four of us here.
4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Jason's in paradise.
You just mentioned that. Yeah. Welcome everybody to CAD Training, spring semester 2022. It's very exciting. My name is Ari Atlas. I'm a junior in biomedical engineering, and I've got a couple solid years of CAD training. I helped run the club last semester too, and we're gonna have a really fun time. Just go straight to the picture.
I'm Patrick Dickinson. I'm a sophomore in mechanical engineering, and I've been CADing for a few years. This is my first time doing the training, and it should be a good time.
Yeah, and then just to mention, Jason's another one of our members. He unfortunately couldn't make it today, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Oscar, Oscar Morales. I am a freshman from Dallas, and I've been CADing since about freshman year of high school.
And I'm Addy. I'm a sophomore in mechanical engineering, and I've been, CADing since freshman year of high school with, FRC and FTC and all that. So I'm excited to get some cool things made out of this course.
Fantastic. All right, sweet. So what is CAD training, right? So CAD training is computer-aided design, and it's a tool for all of you to use to help you model three-dimensional objects and parts that you can design and use for real-world applications. So this is stuff that you'll use for your classes. This is stuff that you'll use for internships or even jobs. And it can also be a tool that you can use on your own time for fun. What we hope to give you from this course, basically, is weekly training sessions, and it will provide you with foundational engineering skills that will help you in the future with your classes, your jobs, your internships, everything that you might need. And we are here to help provide that for you. So it's not just us kind of lecturing all day or anything. Like, we are here one-on-one for you guys if you guys need help or assistance. And by the end of the semester, you should be able to do a lot of different things. After going through this week by week, you should be able to manage your own projects. You should be able to create parts based off of other people's drawings. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of stuff. Schedule-wise, so this first week is just kind of like our introduction, and at the end of it, we're going to be designing a Purdue hammer kind of thing. The next week, we're going to get into like the basic file management, how to organize your files, keep everything organized. Organization is a really key part of engineering. And then the next few weeks after that is we're going to be introducing you to your main important tools that you're going to be needing to master to control Fusion 360. Once you've gotten the hang of these basic tools, the next few weeks later we'll be moving on to specialty tools and design parts. So what that means is we'll start the lesson off with just maybe 10 minutes of explaining a new tool that isn't completely necessary for you to do what you need to do, but if you know how to do it, it'll streamline your process pretty quickly. And after that 10-minute period, you'll be able to go off on your own, and we have provided some design part sketches with dimensions and everything that you might need to recreate our work, and we'll send you off to help you guys understand how to model these parts that are not from your own design. And then after a few weeks of that, the rest of the semester is going to be you designing your own specialty parts, your own designs. It can be anything that you can dream of, really. It could be kids last semester, some kid made a guitar, another kid made a chessboard and some chess pieces. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. Another kid was making a snowboard. So it's just, it is a really useful tool, and everything that we're going to be teaching you is going to be very helpful. Also, if you haven't yet, you should join our Slack channel. If you haven't, there's a QR code right here. Give you a second if you haven't. Sweet. Okay, yeah, so we'll just get right into it then with Intro to CAD Training then. So you guys can start walking around if you want. All right, so if you've got your Fusion downloaded, it should look something kind of like this on the start screen. You'll see a bunch of different tools at the top of the bar, and you'll even see a few smaller tools at the bottom of the screen. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to direct your attention to the very bottom of the screen. You will see a small little toolbar of 6 or 7 different tools down here. This is going to be very helpful for navigating Fusion when you have parts that you're going to be looking at. So first is the pan tool. The pan tool is at the bottom. It is the third from the left, and it looks like a hand. If you hover over it, it does say the word pan. If you click on that, this is the pan tool. So now if you were to use your mouse, or if you have a trackpad on your computer, you should be able to move around. It's kind of hard to see because there's no grid lines here, so really quickly I'll just give us some grid lines. So the pan tool allows us to move around in different directions. And when you want to get out of the pan tool, if you go to the top right, you'll have a select button. If you hover over it, it should say the word select, and you can just get out of that tool. The next tool I really want to show you guys is the zoom tool. Sometimes your parts can be a little big and you need to zoom out, or maybe it's a little small and you need to zoom in. If you click on the zoom tool, then which is the magnifying glass with the plus or minus on it, if you then just click and drag on your screen, you should be able to zoom in or out. Yeah, these are just basic movement tools that if you don't have a mouse, like if you're CADing with a trackpad, these are really going to be helpful for you, but hopefully you all have a mouse with you. If you do, then you can just click and hold with the scroll wheel. If you hold the scroll wheel, you should be able to move the screen. And if you use the scroll wheel up or down, you should be able to zoom in and out. So really the bottom tool is just, if in case you don't have a mouse, it will streamline your process. The next thing I really quickly want to direct your attention to is this cube at the top right of the screen. This is your perspective cube. Currently you see the word top. I see the word top on the front of my cube. If I hold down on the cube, I can drag it and orbit my perspective. So instead of being able to move in just only 2 directions, I can now see a 3rd dimension of the screen. If I click on this word here that says right, let's say, it will automatically send me to that perspective. I can use these arrows and the edges and the corners to send me to different perspectives. So if I click this arrow, it'll send me to front. If I click this edge, it'll send me between the front and the left side perspective. If I click the corner, it'll send me to an angle. And the home button will send me to my standard viewing area. So with that, we will get started. So first of all, I want to make sure that everybody's screen looks at least something like mine does, where at the top the word solid is highlighted in blue. If it's not, you might see something a little different. It might look like this or that. You want to make sure that you are on the solid bar, because that's what we're going to be focusing with today and for most of our lessons. The very first thing that we're going to do is to build our hammer, we have to sketch an object. We start in the 2D, in the 2 dimensions, and then from there we'll build up into a hammer. So there should be a button that has a little green plus sign on it, and if you hover over it, it should say the word Create Sketch. If you want to click on that, it will then prompt you with 3 different planes that you can choose to sketch on. So you can choose to sketch on like the XZ plane or the YZ plane, but preferably, at least for this, we'll be sketching on the ground plane, so the YX plane. And when you do, it should automatically send you to this perspective. If for some reason it doesn't, you can find the word top on the rotating cube on the right-hand side, and you should be able to click on that, and it will send you to this perspective. So, first thing that we're going to see is that our top toolbar is completely changed. It's no longer the solid tools. We're now in the sketch tools. So they do look a little different. So to start our project, a lot of engineering classes and jobs want you to have your units for what your screen to be. They'll want them in inches as opposed to millimeters. The standard for Fusion 360 is going to be millimeters. So to quickly change that, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a few different file management tools here. The first one that we're going to look at really quick is Document Settings. If you click down the arrow on Document Settings, you'll see that your units are listed below, and at least for mine, it says millimeters. If you want to click on the pencil and paper on the right-hand side of the millimeters units, it'll prompt you with something that you can use to change your units to. So I can change it to centimeters, meters, inches, and a foot. So today we'll be using inches. If you're more comfortable with millimeters, that's fine, but we'll be instructing mostly in inches today. And then once I've selected inches, I can set it as my default if I want. And then once I've decided on that, I can click OK, and it will save my, my new units. And now my perspective has kind of changed a little bit, as now it provides me with how many of these squares is a certain number of inches. So the first thing that we're going to do to create our hammer is we're going to go to the top toolbar. And there are a few tools listed up here, and these are just kind of like your pin tools. These ones are what Fusion populates for you to tell you what they think are going to be the most useful to you. We're going to open up this Create window. So there's the word Create. You should be able to click on it, and a whole list of different tools will pop up. You should be able to scroll down. We're going to need to start our hammer as a rectangle. If you hover over rectangle, you'll see that there are 3 different options. There's your classic 2-point rectangle, which is typically what we'll be using. There's your 3-point rectangle and your center rectangle. Today we're going to be using the center rectangle just for ease for making this hammer. So you'll click on the center rectangle, and now your mouse will most likely turn into a plus sign. If you were to click anywhere, you would start to build your rectangle, but for us, we want to start right on the central point between the X and Y axes. So I'll click on that, and visually you might not see anything, but as soon as you move your cursor away, you'll see that you are going to be drawing a rectangle here. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is is set these dimensions. So we want to have a fully sketch dimension for our hammer. We want to make sure that we know exactly how big our hammer is going to be, every piece of it. So the first thing, if you'll notice, is as I was moving, one of the dimensions, my base dimension is highlighted in blue currently, which means if I were to start typing into that box, it would change that dimension. So for the length of this rectangle, we're going to make it 7 inches. So I can type in 7 space IN, and a little lock sign will kind of show up. Without hitting enter, I'm going to hit the tab button, and the tab button is going to send my cursor into the next box. So now that I've sent that into the next box, I've now highlighted my height dimension, and I will change that to be 3 inches. And now we'll see that I have a decently sized rectangle. I'll hit enter. And now these dimensions here are listed for us. We can, if you want, you can click and drag on these lines to move them into the or near, just to give yourself some space if you didn't like where they're placed. A fully sketched plane that you know that is fully sketched is if the lines are shown in black here. If they are in blue, that means that your sketch is not fully developed, and that means there's something else that you can do, either an angle or a length dimension, as well as if the shape that you've made is not blue on the inside. Like, notice how here there's blue on the inside of my my rectangle, but on the outside it's white. If it's not blue, then that means that your shape that you've drawn is not a plane. And if it's not a plane, you will not be able to make a 3D object of it. So you always want to make sure that your planes are highlighted in blue. When you're satisfied with the shape that you've just made, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the big green check mark to say Finish Sketch. There's also another Finish Sketch button at the bottom of this sketch palette in blue down here, but I typically just use the Finish Sketch at the top right-hand side of the screen. Once you've located that, we'll go ahead and finish our sketch. And it should send your perspective back to kind of like your home's perspective. If it doesn't, that's fine. You can always click the house button, and it will adjust your screen view for you. For this next step, I would recommend a more three-dimensional view as opposed to the flat 2D sketch view. If you'll notice, our toolbar at the top now does say went back to solids. If we wanted to, we could hit Create Sketch and start another sketch, but instead what we're going to go is we're going to do the tool right to the right of that one. It looks like a blue cube with an arrow next to it, and it is called the Extrude Tool. And if you highlight over it, it'll tell you that. The Extrude Tool will be able to take any sort of plane that you've made and turn it into a 3D object based off of the shape that you've made. If you make a circle, it'll turn it into a circle or a cylinder. If you make a square, it'll turn it into a cube. So we're going to click on the Extrude Tool, and it automatically has selected my only plane that I have. If you have other planes, you'll be able to click on them. Let's say if they've selected the wrong plane, you'll see in this extrude palette to your right, it tells you one profile is selected. You can always hit the X, and now I have no profile selected, and I can manually select a given profile to extrude, so I'll go ahead and do that. There's different types of extrusions. There's just your standard extrude, and then there's the thin extrude. We'll get into that on a later day, but for today we're going to be doing the regular extrude. For here, there's the start. There's different options: profile plane, offset, or object. We're starting from this profile plane, but let's say you wanted to start extruding from a certain distance above what you've just drawn. You could use the offset option. Or the object option. And then our distance here, or our direction, sorry, we can extrude from one side, we can extrude from a different height from both sides, and we can do symmetric. For us, we're just going to make sure that that one side is selected. Our distance, we are going to be extruding from a distance
if you had another object, let's say directly above your sketch plane, and let's say you don't know the exact distance, it's between 30 inches and 31 inches, and you don't know the exact number, you can click on to object and click the object, and it'll extrude exactly the right amount. But we obviously don't have an object, so we're going to be using the distance function. And this distance here that we're going to be extruding, you can either manually hand type it, or you can grab the blue arrow that should be in the center of your square, and you should be able to drag and pull that up. The more zoomed in you are, the smaller the steppings are going to be for the extrusion. If I zoom out, if I drag it up, it'll then propagate by 0.5 inches as to before it was moving up by 0.1. But for this, we want it to be a square-faced hammer, so we will make the face of the hammer the same length as our smallest base side, so that was 3 inches. So I will go ahead and just manually type in 3 inches there. This operation can happen in a different couple ways. We're going to want it to be a new body. There are different ones. If we were with another object, there could be the join feature, which will combine our objects. There's the intersect and the cut tools, which are very helpful, and we'll get into those on another day. So make sure that new body is selected, and we will hit OK. So once Fusion has finished loading, you now have a box. You can use your cube at the top right corner to kind of examine your box, your hammer, hammerhead, and see how that is. The next step in building our hammer is obviously going to be the handle. So to build the handle, we're going to start the same way we did before, and we're going to build a sketch. So we'll go to the top toolbar to the far right side and find that Create Sketch button, and we'll click on that. Instead of choosing one of these main 3 planes that have just shown up for me, we now see that we have the option to click on the faces of our object. So we'll click on one of these long faces, preferably the one that's parallel with the XY plane. And I'll click on that, and now it will send me to my sketch view. And at my sketch view, again, if yours doesn't send you there right away, you can just find the word top on this cube here, and it should be able to just send you right to where you want to be. Now that we're on this this view, we'll go to our toolbar here, and we'll notice if yours isn't there immediately, that's okay. But we're going to be drawing a circle on our plane here. If the circle is not here for you, if you go to the Create tab, there underneath Line, underneath Rectangle, there is the Circle option. And for our purposes, there's many different options, but we're going to want to click the center diameter circle. Once we've selected that tool, we'll see that we have the plus sign on our cursor again. And again, we should be selecting the center point of the X and Y axes, which is right in the center of our rectangular object. So I'll click on that, and I'll see as I draw my mouse out, it will make the circle at different sizes. Just based off of the perspective of how big you made your hammer, for me, because I made the distance only 3 inches, I'm going to make my circle diameter 2 inches. So once I either manually type that in, or if I've found 2 inches exactly like I do on my screen, I will just hit select, and that will propagate. If you manually typed it in, you can also just hit enter. Either work. And you'll see that now my cursor is still ready to make another circle. I could draw another one without having to reselect the tool, but I don't want that, so I'll just hit the select button at the top of the screen, and now I am back in select mode. Once you're satisfied with your drawing, you can hit the Finish Sketch tool, and it will send you generally back to the perspective that you were in before. And if you'll notice, if I hover over the top of my hammer, there's now a cutout of where that circle is, and I can hover over that circle and it'll only select that circle. So that shows me that I was successful in drawing my object and that it is in fact a sketch plane. So now I will go to the same tool that we went to before, which was the Extrude Tool. And once I'm there, I can select the circle that we've just drawn. Once it's selected, personally, from my own perspective on when I'm extruding just straight up like this, I like to have a more flat view. So I'll hit the on my cube the words back at the top, and it will shift my cube so I just see the 2D scan of my object, and from there I can see how long I want to make my my handle. I can make it a shorter hammer if I want. I can make it really much longer. It really just depends on your preferences. For me, I think I'll make my handle length 8 inches long. Once I'm satisfied with that 8 inches, I'll look over to my extrude functions, and you'll notice that the operation is no longer new body as it was the first time. It's now the join feature. If the join feature is selected, these will become one piece, which is what we want for this object, but in the future you might want 2 pieces separated, and for that you would use new body again. So we're going to use the join function. Once Fusion's loaded your object, you'll notice you've got your basic shape here. For every good hammer is going to have a top part of their handle showing up, so I will use the view cube to change my perspective so I can see the top of my hammer. And I will hit, again, the Create Sketch tool at the top of the toolbar. Once selected, I'll make sure not to select the wrong plane, but I'll select the face of my, my hammer to make sure that I have the right perspective. And it sent me to be looking at the perspective of the top of my hammer. So I'll go to the same tool that I did before. Again, we're just going to be the center diameter circle, which for most of you should probably be at the top of your sketch toolbar. If not, you can just go into Create and find it under Circles. I will click the center diameter circle, and I will zoom in so I can see a little bit better, and click on the center point of my rectangle. And from there, I will go out to the exact same distance that I went to when I drew the other one. I remember it to be 2 inches, so I will select 2 inches again. And I will hit the Select tool at the top. And I want to click the Select tool just to make sure that I actually do have 2 different planes here now, that my drawing was completed. You could have, with a tool such as the Circle tool, like it will be pretty difficult to not get a sketch plane with that, but with other tools you might click a button and you won't be able to select this when you need to. So once I'm satisfied, I'll hit the Finish Sketch button at the top, and I'll be at this perspective. I don't want to be looking at it directly above it, so I will be hitting the Home button to give me a new perspective. But I do want to be looking at the top of the hammer, so I will use that view cube again to get a perspective of my choice. This is what I prefer to see. I want to see the circle on top, but not directly, so I can still give it some height. I will hit the Extrude tool again at the top left of the toolbar under Solid, and I will select the circle profile that I've just drawn. And I will either use this arrow to add different height to it. Sometimes the perspective that you've chosen might not tell you or show you much, so you can click on the words of your cube to give you some new perspective. So I'll click on the word right on my cube, and it'll show me how tall I don't think I'll want a full inch for the size of this hammer. I think maybe just 0.5 inches should be good for me. I'm examining the hammer at its different perspectives to see how I like it, and I do. So I'll hit OK. And now I have this basic hammer shape, but a hammer is not just a rod and a rectangle. It's also got a little bit of form to it. So we're gonna give these edges something to make it look more like a hammer. So instead of being in the Create section of our toolbar, we're gonna move over to a different section, and it's the Modify section. We're still in solids, but it'll be in the Modify section. There's a whole bunch of different tools at the top. The one we are going to be looking for is Chamfer, and the Chamfer tool should be there at the top, and if it's not, you can just go into the Modify drop-down, and it should be generally up there towards the top, Chamfer. And the Chamfer tool will allow us to click those sharp corner edges and turn them into flat spots. So I will select the Chamfer tool. And now if I go around, it's I can select edges or faces of my hammer. So I'm going to make sure to select just the outer edges. So I can do that by hand. And once I've only grabbed the edges in this one perspective, I can just grab my view cube and change my perspective. And I will see that I haven't selected every single edge at this moment yet, so I will grab those. Once I have all 12 edges of my hammerhead selected, I'll see that a blue arrow is now pointed at one of the corners of my rectangle of my box. And I can either, like we did previously, I can manually type in this box, or I can grab the arrow. For me right now, let's just grab the arrow and see what happens. I'll grab it and I'll push it towards my hammer, and you'll see that, wow, that was a lot. And it will turn all of those edges that we just had into flat spots. I personally do not want my hammer to look like this, so I will change it from a full inch manually to be a, let's say, half of an inch. Still a little much, maybe 0.25 inches. Get somewhere that you're comfortable with. Again, if you zoom in to your hammer, the stepping stones between each of those points to get between these values will change. So before, when I moved the arrow in, it moved it immediately to a full inch, but now I can control by just 1/10 of an inch. I like the look of 0.2, between 0.2 and 0.3 for me personally. Once I'm satisfied with that, I will hit OK. And now I've made my basic hammer shape. It doesn't just have to be straight edges to do this type of tool with. If I reselect the Chamfer tool from the Modify section, I can select the edges of my the edge of my top cylinder here, and I can do the same thing at the same distance. Let's say 0.2, and now I have added a bit of a rivet to the top of my my hammer if I want it. You might prefer it with out, and that's okay as well. But yeah, so this is just a very very basic step-by-step process on how you can make objects in Fusion very quickly. It's super helpful, and in the next coming weeks we'll be making a lot more complex objects. The pace that we'll go at is probably going to be similar to this. If you guys want to reach out to us on Slack and let us know if it's too fast, too slow, we want to be as accommodating to everybody as we can. I know for some of you this might have seemed, even if you're new, this might have seemed maybe a little bit easy, but that's why we do it on the day one, just to get you more familiarized with the create section and the modify section, as well as the sketching tools that you'll be using, because a lot of the parts and objects that we'll be making in the coming weeks will be a little bit more complicated than a two-piece hammer. Are there anyone has any immediate concerns, questions? Yeah.
At the very beginning, when you said that to go, you started on your top face and that was the X, Y plane. If mine was like, say, my top was the X, Z plane, does that matter at all?
No, it does not matter. You can have your own perspective. I will just be doing things based off of the layout of how my fusion looks. I know for some of you, your cube, the XY plane might be, you might have your Y axis straight up as opposed to your Z axis. You can change that in the fusion settings, and if there's need for that, we can go over that in another lesson. But it really does not matter as long as we're all just kind of as long as we're all getting through the process, so we're not getting stuck.
Do you want me to explain like why it's important?
Yeah.
So I can evaluate a little bit more on this. It's a little bit more complicated, but if you ever get a position where you are going to be CADing, so let's say you're working in a machine shop, something that you can actually do in Fusion is if you go to this side where it says design, one of the options is to go to drawing. So you can actually go and you can print this whole part in a drawing. So it's an industry standard that you have all these views. And the reason that's important, back to your question, you can ultimately draw it anyways. You could have this be your top, this can be your top, this can be your top. But by standard, what you're supposed to do is your front view, this one right here, is supposed to represent the view that represents the shape in the best ideal fashion. So this will tell you it's a hammer. This so much will not. It's kind of a more advanced practice, so I'll kind of show you really quickly, but if you go here, you can actually make a quick blueprint. Well, I'd have to save it first. But what it's going to do is it's going to import the front view. So if you do it in the wrong view, your whole drawing is going to be off, and that's what you're going to hand to some person in a machine shop to go make. So in short, it doesn't really matter, but in your more advanced CAD, it kind of does matter where you start the point of view of the whole drawing. So if that answers it any better.
We also have, after you all go home today, we have this PowerPoint that goes through the step-by-step on how we just did what we did in case it went a little too quick for you or you missed a step, and it will be able to help you.
Do you want to show them how to see it part?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so once I am comfortable with the final form that I've made, I can go, you can either, depending on Windows or Mac, Control S, Command S, just your quick save. But you can go to File, and you can hit Save. And File is this little paper-looking icon at the top left of the screen. Scroll down to Save, and it'll prompt you with this window. You can name your object. I'll call it ASME CAD hammer. You can change the location if you want, and we'll get into that a little bit more next week when we talk about just like the basic file management. For now, I'll just send it to my admin project location. That's where I send most of my projects. And I will hit the save button, and you'll see that once you've saved, you'll now have a little cube at the top next to the name of the object that you just made. And no longer an asterisk. An asterisk will tell you that it's being edited, and now it even has a V1. So if I were to create a sketch on top of this, at the bottom of this handle here, and I just were to draw a circle, a concentric circle inside, and I finish my sketch, you'll now notice that I have an asterisk next to my, my V1. If I just hit Control S or the save. I can go right into File and Save, or now I can hit the this little Save floppy disk looking tool at the top left, and that will prompt me with user saved, meaning you can add a description if you need to, like to tell someone else who might be looking at your part what was the reason for this edit that you had just made, kind of thing. For right now, I'll just leave it as user saved, and I'll hit OK. And now the cube will turn into a check mark. It'll come back into a cube. The asterisk will disappear, and now it goes from version 1 to now version 2. And that will save in your Fusion files. Saving is obviously very important. I would not recommend waiting to save your big projects until the very end. Things happen, your computer freaks out, it might crash, and you might have just lost 2 hours worth of work because you forgot to hit 2 keys on your keyboard. So saving is very, very important. Don't forget to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, thank you all for coming. Like I said, this PowerPoint will be available to you, as well as the recording of this session to come back to for future reference. Every session will be recorded, and we'll send out a PowerPoint. So as we get into more advanced tools, if you forget something, you can go back to a PowerPoint. You can go back to a recording and hear how to do a certain thing. Again, if you haven't joined our Slack, please do. And if you did not get a chance to use the SAO or the Google Form sign sheet, let me know and I can pull that back up for you guys. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys again next week.